It's been almost 2 years since I finished this 1648 John boat build. How's it holding up after 2 years of being stored outside with no cover? And if I could go back and do it all over again, what would I change? All that and more in this video. Send it. All right, so one of the first things I need to fix is I got a couple of leakers up here. This one I can actually move around. That one I can almost move. That one I can see a gap in. That one's really bad. And that one, I don't know if you guys can see this, but I'm actually able to move this with my finger. No wonder this boat has so much water in it every time we take it out. So I'm not 100% sure what size these rivets are. We're going to drill them out real quick, and I've got some sealed rivets. I'll leave a link down in the description box if you want to check those out. But if this is a 3/16 rivet, I've got some 3/16 sealed rivets. And if it's a little bigger, we can drill the hole out and go with one of these bigger 1/4" rivets. No big deal. I got both. So this one's pretty well wallered out. It used to be a 3/16, but now from years of not being fixed and abuse, it's wallered out that hole. So we are going to have to drill this out and go with the big 1/4" rivet. All right, I think we got that one pretty well. Now let's see if we can get the rest of these out without having to enlarge the holes too much. So here inside my front hatch, that's the rivet that I just replaced. And these are all the rest of them that are leaking. I can actually move these around quite a bit. Unfortunately, these rivets are so loose, if I keep drilling them, it's just spinning them and wallering the hole out even more. So I'll take this little oscillation tool and cut the head of these rivets off from the backside and see if I can get them out that way. Unfortunately, I think this 3/16 rivet's going to be just a hair too small. So we're going to have to drill these out and go to a full 1/4" on all these.
I'm about to smash my hand into the trailer really bad, and it's going to hurt in 3, 2, and 1. This would be an amazing time for that REM song, Everybody Hurts, to start playing in the background with some real slow piano. Just, that hurt a lot.
Riveting is so dangerous. There's blood everywhere. Oh, my poor little finger. Oh, I knew that was going to happen. Yeah, those 1/4" rivets are no joke. Oh, why does my finger have a heartbeat? Oh. All right, so I'm pretty sure I saw Jesus there for like half a second. And after I talked to him, he reminded me that these are not aluminum rivets. These are stainless rivets, which is why they're so difficult to get to break. But I know what's not difficult to break: your freaking fingernail in half while trying to do 1/4" rivets. We're going to finish it up, just minus a finger. Owie.
Whew! Thank you, Jesus. I don't lose any more fingers. That sucked.
So the next thing I need to fix is this back bench right here. I originally had some of these little short bungee cords on the bottom of this, and it was tied down to the floor, and they worked okay for a little while, but after a few trips driving, this thing just started flopping up and down. The cord stretched out and just wasn't really holding it down very well. So here is the cool little solution I came up with. These right here, I got these on Amazon. These are made for those little Nopi car kids with those annoying little rice rockets that go ding, 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 ding. These are two little mounting points where you could hold like a bumper on the front of a car, and if you wanted to make the bumper removable, you would put this up on like one of the framing pieces and this on one of the bumper pieces, and you use this little O-ring to kind of stretch around it, and that holds it in place. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to install a couple of these, one on the top deck up here and one kind of down here. And then what we'll be able to do is hook and latch this over. That will keep this down and will also keep it removable so I can take this out whenever I need to. This thing came as a kit, so it's got all of the hardware and nuts and bolts and stuff that I need. So we're gonna try this out and see how it goes. I think that's gonna work out much better. I'm gonna put one more on the other side, but I think 2 will be enough to hold it. But I kind of like that. Getting it off, not too bad. Dang it, I am just like a glutton for punishment tonight. Ah, that's 2 injuries. 2 fixes, 2 injuries. Ah! That works pretty good. I don't think we're gonna have any issues with that. And this one comes off pretty easy as well. I was kind of worried about the spacing at first. I didn't know if these things were going to stretch enough, but it seems like they do. I'm pretty much at the limit, so about 2 inches is as far apart as you can go, you know, kind of over a corner like this, but a little difficult to get off, but not terrible. Let me see if I can get it off with my strong hand. Oh, looky there. All right, so our next attempt at modifying this boat without gravely injuring myself, we need to install a seat pedestal base right here. When I originally built this boat, I actually framed it out for a seat pedestal right in this location, and I even painted one black to match my boat. I just never installed it for whatever reason. We're gonna do that now because I would like to have a place to sit sometimes. So the way I've got this framed is this will sit right in here, and these bolt holes line up with the 2 framing pieces that I have, which are 1/8 inch angle underneath here. But we're not gonna take anything to chance, see as how everything is going so well tonight. I'm gonna lay down some tape and put some measurements on this deck. One thing I have to watch out for is I have a vertical support underneath this deck right here, and then this space from here back is completely open. Now, I don't want this thing to sit too far back. I want it to sit as far forward as possible. Now, had I planned this boat build out a little bit better before I started, what I should have done is move these 2 hatches back a little bit and mount this a little bit further forward. That way I could actually sit up closer to where the trolling motor is. In all honesty, most of the time when I'm actually out moving around and fishing, I'm standing up in the front, so I'm right there by the trolling motor. It's not a big, huge deal. Most of the time when I'm sitting is when I'm catfishing and I'm just anchored up or I'm drifting. I'm fine with it being right here for right now. But let's go ahead and get this thing installed. That looks about center enough for me. So now all I need to do is switch out to a regular drill bit, hold this in place real well. Then I can go ahead and install my 1/4 20 bolts with a lock washer and a lock nut. Got my seat pedestal base that I painted black to match, and a nice little Millennium seat to match the boat also. Oh yeah, that's real nice. Boat building's exhausting. Next, I have definitely been needing a place to store my stakeout poles or spud poles, whatever you want to call them. I got 2 of these nice fiberglass ones, and I hate them just sitting up here wandering around all over the place. So I think I'm going to mount them right about here. And to do that, I've got some of these pole light storage clips from Atwood. You can find these on Amazon. I'll leave a link down in the description box below. What these are for is normally you would store your rear navigation light or your front navigation light somewhere inside your boat with them, but they're almost the exact size that I need for my spud poles. So I'm going to use a couple of stainless self-tapping screws and stick these in about right in here somewhere. Next up on the list is a cup holder and also a place to put my pliers and some extra fishing lures if I just need to throw them down somewhere real quick. And for that, we're going to be using the Tiny Boat Nation Gear Caddy. This is a cup holder, a couple places to put pliers, and some little places to hang hooks or lures or whatever. Since I will more than likely not be walking up onto the deck right here in the center with this chair in the way, I think I'm going to put this right in the center of the boat and kind of mount it down just a little bit. I'm not super crazy about it being up high because I don't want to kick my drink if I got one in there. So I think we're gonna go about right here. And nope, we ain't using a tape measure. Jesus, take the wheel. That's pretty sturdy. I like it.
After having this in my boat for a while, I can honestly say this is one of the handiest mods I have done. That little cup holder and just having a place to put all your junk right there, can't say enough good things about it.
All right, now one of the really dumb things I did when I mounted this trolling motor is I didn't leave enough slack in the wire up to where my plug is at so that I could raise the trolling motor up and still work it. So as you can see, I'm not even halfway up right now, and I'm pretty close to running out of wire. So we're gonna give this the old snipperoo add in a few feet just so I've got some extra and not ever make this dumb mistake again. So for anyone who's wondering, it's a pretty simple process. I just use some 10 gauge butt connectors that already have the heat shrink built into them. I used some 10 gauge wire that is marine rated, which is a 10 copper wire. Gave them a good crimp with my lineman's pliers, and then just simply heated it up with a heat gun to get the heat shrink to melt. And now I'm just wrapping it up in some wire loom to kind of make it look a little bit better. A lot extra room now. I can move that thing up and down and not have to worry about, you know, pulling this thing too tight or pulling the plug out. Don't make this mistake. It was really stupid.
Okay, so let's talk about this Yeti cooler seat situation I got going on here. I bought this seat cushion off of Amazon to fit my 35 Yeti. The seat cushion itself is not a bad seat cushion. I'm not even going to talk any crap about it. What I am going to say is it is not UV safe. I have had this thing sitting outside for 2 years uncovered in the sun and in the rain, and the UV has absolutely destroyed it. The cushion itself, if you were to keep it inside, would probably last you for years, and it's actually a really nice seat cushion. I like the way that it attaches to my Yeti cooler, but I left it sit out in the sun just to test this out, and it is completely faded to the point that the material has weakened and it is starting to fall apart. The snaps on the flaps that actually hold it to the cooler hold up really well, but the top, once it kind of ate through, it actually started eating into the foam and deteriorating the foam to the point to where it's really just not usable anymore. Overall, it is not a bad cooler topper at all. I highly recommend it. Just don't keep it out in the sun. So what I decided to do was make me a new seat, and I got a pretty decent Igloo cooler, not quite as nice as my Yeti, and I attached a Millennium seat on top of it. I just used a simple swivel seat base with some stainless steel bolts and lock nuts attaching it to the actual cooler top, and then attach the Millennium seat to the swivel. I've been using this thing for a couple months now, and I actually really like it. I don't have to have stuff in the cooler for it to feel stable. Like I thought I was going to need to strap this thing down when I first made it, but it's actually worked out really well, even empty, just sitting in my boat. Catfish in it, I can stand up, sit down, move around, and I don't have to worry about it sliding. The only thing that you really have to worry about is when you're traveling. You do need a way to strap this thing down when you're traveling, especially if you don't have anything in it, because it will slide around inside the boat. Aside from that, this is an awesome little mod. Next up on my list of dumb crap I did to my boat the first time I built it, and I'm having to redo it again, is the lead acid batteries I put up underneath the front deck. I've been running two 122 amp hour lead acid Walmart batteries, and they are ridiculously heavy, and I need to upgrade. So what I did is I went on Amazon and I bought the two cheapest 100 amp hour 12 volt lithium batteries that I could possibly find, and I'm going to test them out for the next however long until I decide to do a review video on them and let you guys if it's worth, you know, blowing 160 bucks per battery on these cheapo Amazons. So far, I've been using them for a couple of months. I haven't had any issues with them. We'll have to do another video later on down the road of lithium versus lead acid and AGM and all that other fancy stuff. But for right now, I'm just testing these out to see how they go. And here is exactly why I wanted to get rid of my lead acid batteries.
All right, Hero, go ahead and pick that heavy one up and see how much it weighs. 58 pounds, 1 ounce. It's the same amount as you weigh. All right, now try the new one. 20 pounds, 14 ounces. Holy smokes.
So that means I had a whopping 116 pounds worth of lead acid batteries in my boat. I now have 40 pounds worth of lithium batteries in my boat. I saved 76 pounds just by swapping batteries. It was about time to get rid of them anyways because they were on their way out the door. They weren't really holding the charge that well anymore. And at some point, some crackhead's probably going to end up stealing them and taking them to the scrapyard for, you know, a half-smoked blunt and a bag of Cheetos. So we slapped those in the boat, wired them up in parallel, and we're good to go and saved a bunch of weight. That makes me happy. Continuing on with the theme of this video, which should probably be titled How Not to Build a Boat with the Duck Dynasty version of Helen Keller. When I originally started this boat build, I was like, I don't need no stupid subfloor. I'm not a bass fisherman. I don't need that. It's stupid, whatever. I was super wrong. I absolutely do need a subfloor up front because what happens is I leave my boat outside, it fills up with water. I don't always pull the drain plug because I'm not that smart. And sometimes I get a lot of water up in the front part of the underside of the deck and it fills up full of water and gets all my crap wet. So in goes a subfloor. My best piece of advice that I could ever give anyone is if you think you are ever going to want a subfloor at some point in your life, do it while you're building your boat. Doing it after the fact absolutely sucks. But since I'm having to do it, I'm going to embrace the suck. here's how I did it. I used some scrap pieces of 050 aluminum. It was the thinnest that we had in the shop. I don't need this to hold up my weight. I just need it to hold up the weight of like my fishing gear and, you know, life jackets and crap like that. In between the ribs, I put pink sheet foam just so that I had something to give it some extra support. And then I went through and I made these little small pieces of 050 fit inside the boat. I could have done this with one big sheet of 050, one on each side, but I just had a bunch of scrap laying around the shop and I just figured I'd use it. It's never going to be seen because when I get done with the subfloor, I'm going to cover it with HydroTurf. Now, if you've watched any of my videos before, you know that I am super cheap, like really, really cheap. I refused to go buy new HydroTurf for this boat. So what I did was I used some old HydroTurf that we had laying around the shop that does not have adhesive on it. And in order to get it to stick, I've got to put contact cement on the back of it. So that's what I did. It doesn't match the boat. It is brown, so I guess it kind of matches the boat, but it's not the same turf that I have up on the deck. It doesn't really matter. Nobody's ever really going to see it except for me and now you and however many people watch this video. But the subfloor not only looks good underneath the deck, it also serves that purpose of keeping stuff up off the bottom of the boat if it does happen to get water in it, if it rains, whatever. I didn't do the entire floor. I just did the main portion of it because I really don't carry a ton of stuff in here, but I did want what stuff that I do put underneath the front deck to stay as dry as possible. So subfloor, here you go. That's how you do it if you forget to do it at the beginning of your boat build like I did. But don't do that. Do it when you're building your boat. It's a lot easier. My next dumb move that I got to fix now is the cheapo bedliner that I put all over my boat. I did it on the gunnels, the front bumper, transom, whole bunch of places. I love the bedliner. There's nothing wrong with it, but I used cheap bedliner from Harbor Freight, and I think I wound up touching it up later on with some Rust-Oleum, and neither one of the products have any UV resistance. So after a year or so, they kind of get chalky and nasty looking like this, and now it needs to be redone with something a little bit better quality. For this, I'm going to be using Raptor liner. We've used it a lot in the shop recently, and it's held up really well. People seem to like it, so I'm going to try it out on this boat. I got to tape everything off, get everything covered in plastic that I don't want to get covered in bed liner because I am going to be spraying this and it's probably going to go everywhere. After that, I got a brown Scotch-Brite pad and gave everything a really good scuffing. I'm not really sanding anything here. I am just scuffing up the surface after I cleaned it really well with acetone, but the scuff is just going to help the next part of the process with the coating stick. As far as coatings go, I'm going to use two Raptor liner products. The first one is a adhesion promoter. This is basically just a clear sticky type paint. If you've never used it before, you don't know anything about it, but read the instructions, it'll tell you how to do it the correct way. It just goes on in some light coats. I think I ended up doing 2 whole light coats with 1 can on everything on my boat that I needed to spray. And then after the adhesion promoter dries, then I'm going to start using the Raptor liner. Normally I use the mix that you have to spray out of a spray gun, but this time I wanted to try out the little rattle cans. Now these are 2-part rattle cans. They have the activator in the bottom of the can. You have to pull off this little red tab and push it into the bottom of the can, and that releases the activator into the coating, and you got to mix it up really good. That makes it really hard, but that's also where some of the UV protection comes into play. It's inside that activator. I already had all that bed liner underneath it, so I really didn't need to spend a lot of time putting a bunch of coats on there. I just needed one really good coat to make it look good, and this is how it turned out. I'm really happy with the texture of the Raptor liner. It does look really good. We've used it on several boats in the shop, and it seems to hold up really well. Last but certainly not least is my Catfish rod holders. I made one of these for each side of the boat. They're pretty simple to make if you can weld aluminum. All I did was take some 1/4-inch aluminum plate, and I made these little pedestals by stacking up more pieces of 1/4-inch aluminum, drilling and tapping them, and then I just welded the little pedestals to the base plate. I drilled some mounting holes in it, and then I hit it with some bed liner to make it match the rest of my boat. And I'm going to attach these to each side of my catwalks in the back of the boat with some stainless self-tapping screws. Now I would love to have something like a multi-bar or some kind of similar product to hold my fishing rods on the back of the boat, but whenever I run a long tail mud motor on this boat, I have to have a way to swing the tail into the boat when I'm putting it on the trailer and going places. So having those big old bars sticking up in the air just ain't gonna work. So that's why I made these, and I actually really like them. They turned out kind of cool. Simple for me to make because I have an aluminum welder and some scrap aluminum laying around. And then of course I finished them off with some monster rod holders. I got 3 on each side of the boat. And the only thing I wish I would have done differently is maybe split these up so that I could put them in different places. I know Monster makes a little holder for their rod holders that I could have used, and I may move them around a little bit in the future, but for right now they're working fine. and 3 on each side of the boat is plenty enough for me when I go fishing. If you watched my original boat build video and you were wondering why I built my catwalks the way that I did, this is why. Because they double as rod storage for me because I don't have a rod logger. I made the upright supports far enough apart so that I could fit my 6.5-foot spinning rods on one side and my 7-foot bait casting rods on the other side. And they slide in and out really easy. I do keep rod socks, rod sleeves, whatever you want to call them, on each one of my rods to keep them from getting tangled up. But it allows me to store 3 rods on each side pretty easily. So here's the boat as it sits now. I'm really glad that I took the time to go back and fix all these mistakes that I made when I built this boat the first time. Sometimes when you build a boat like this, you just have to go out and use it a little bit, find out what you like and don't like about it. If you have the opportunity to watch a video like this before you build your boat, a lot of this is stuff that I wish I would have done and maybe is something that you would like to do on your boat. So what's up next? Because we are not done. We're going to completely rip apart my trailer and rebuild it all over to make it a lot easier to get it on and off the trailer, especially in these shallow situations like I have here. Then we are going to be doing another video on ripping out all of the electrical in my boat, putting in some super fancy lights to help me fish at night, because that's what I like to do now a lot, is fish at night, and I need to be able to see. We're going to do a video on some cool storage solutions that I came up with for the inside of the boat. I got quite a few to share with you guys. And then we've got a nice mud motor review coming up on the Mud Skipper Feather Light. So make sure you stay tuned for that. And now you know what time it is.
A send it video would not be complete without some time in the haters corner. I've got some haterade, so here we go. If you're not familiar with the haters corner, what we like to do at the end of every video is stand in a corner and see who was the most butthurt in the comments over the last couple of weeks. And because we know that there's a lot of sensitive people on the internet, we don't use their real names, we just call them Scooter. Our first Scooter left a comment on my electrical video. He writes, "Hey, question." I waited for a little while, didn't get a question, so I went and scrolling back through videos and I found Scooter again. This time in the Tracker Topper video, he wrote, "Hey, Send It John Boats, I have a question." Well, I would wait to hear what the question is, but that would be like me waiting to find out when I'm actually going to use all that stupid trigonometry and calculus that I learned in high school. Never. Speaking of waiting, you know what sucks? Waiting rooms. I despise waiting rooms, especially when you're waiting for something that you know you're going to have to be put under for. But you know what's worse than waking up from anesthesia with a pecker drawn on your face? Finding out it was traced. Our next Scooter commented on my Lies and Myths About Float Pod video. He writes, "I hate rolly eye emoji face, the haters corner, facepalm emoji face, and a pine cone question mark, side face emoji something, Star Trek, love us." Comments like this really make me wonder, if you were to take ice water and pour it on a hot dog, would it now become a chili dog? Our next Scooter commented on my update video I did a little while back where I had my little electric outboard and I was out catfishing, just kind of catching everybody up, telling you what's going on. And apparently Scooter did not like me turning my boat into a Prius because he wrote, "So, you're gay now?" Look, Scooter, just because I put an electric outboard on the back of my John boat does not mean that I can tell what flavor a popsicle is just by sitting on it. But it's like Mama always says, cigarettes and vapes are not good for you. Well, Mama, neither are women, but I ain't going gay. But since we're on the topic of gay, I guess now would be a great time to tell my favorite gay joke. What do you call a gay drive-by shooting? A fruit roll-up. Oh, if that offends you, go suck a dick and get over it. You'll be fine. And our honorable mention for the week, Scooter commented on the Predator 670 Mud Motor video. He writes, "Sir, can you please, on the next time you use a growl as a reference of torque, assimilate a number based on the intensity of the growl so we can make a better reference to try to replicate it?" So if you don't know what he's talking about, you can go back and watch that video. Anytime I do torque specs in a video, I always go, okay, the torque spec's going to be right there. And I know it's funny, but that is honestly how I do torque specs with everything. I look at the torque specs. If it says it's 20 foot-pounds, I'll go, all right, that's 20 foot-pounds. If it's 90 foot-pounds, I go, all right, that's 90 foot-pounds. I will honestly never remember to put torque specs in a video. So if the Send It John Boats community wants to come up with a universal scale for the grr and the torques, y'all let me know what you want to do. If you want to do like bananas 1 to 7 or something stupid, I don't know, let me know. And while y'all are figuring about groaning torque specs, can someone please tell me, when the people invented the first clock, how did they know what time it was?